Thanks everyone for being here. Yeah, as you can see above, the special guest is Thomas. No photo in there, unfortunately, but nonetheless, here he is. Thomas is the head of applied research at Echo Leather, which is based in Denmark and Holland. And in the interest of time, we're just going to get straight into our conversation. He's the actual expert on this subject, so we want to talk to him directly. And actually, Echo Leather was featured in the article that Ole was talking about, so it's great to have him here.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting me.
So, Thomas, can you tell us a bit about your day-to-day, what it involves in terms of fabric? And I saw you brought some fabrics here, so you could also tell us a bit about that.
Sure. I mean, so as you said, I'm heading up applied research in Echo Leather. So that means I'm responsible for a relatively small team of experts, technicians, hands-on experts, scientists even. And we're responsible of bringing ideas and new concepts and technologies actually to scale. So we take new techs or whatever coming in from A to Z, basically. So, yeah.
Okay, can you actually walk us through the process of coming up with the concept for a new fabric all the way to market? You could use these ones here, for example.
Sure. I mean, if you take this one, for instance, the Dyneema bonded leather, actually the idea sparkled from one of our Echo Leather hot shops in Dongen in Holland, where we, together with the Dyneema project guys, came up with this idea of creating a super thin material, yet super strong. Of course, concentrating on leather because of the leather touch and the feel and emotions of leather. And combining these two extremes, you would find a new hybrid material which would, of course, be perceived as a leather. Super thin, as I said, 0.4, 0.5 millimeters, but extremely strong because of the fibers provided by the Dyneema fabric. So the Dyneema bonded leather is actually that hybrid coming in, and to say that we have a standardized process of developing something like this is impossible, because each project will come with its own process, and you need to be very flexible in order to bring it to scale. And I think this is where we're quite unique, because we can take it from, as I said, A to Z without involving any other third party of other manufacturing partners and so on. We can do it on our own. So.
And the fabric obviously has a lot of uses outside of fashion, in cars, watches, etc.
Indeed.
But in terms of fashion, what role does innovative fabric play in sort of speeding the evolution of fashion?
Sure. I mean, if we look at some of the trends right now on fabric innovations and so on, for sure, technology and integration of technologies into fabric is a big theme. I mean, you can mention smart materials and smart textiles, responsive materials, and so on. Innovations in general, I mean, new concepts, new combinations, this one being one, are for sure the drivers in these fabric innovations. And then we see slowly these principles of sustainability, circular economy, upcycling and recycling in general, definitely something which is coming. And for sure, I mean, those parameters will definitely drive also fashion at the end. But it goes together. I mean, if you talk about new fabrics and so on, you need to talk manufacturing means as well. So this interplay between materials and the way you produce is for sure important. And I guess in order for fashion to reach the next level, you need this combination.
Okay, so in addition to the actual end product, the fashion item, whatever it is, it also affects the entire mode of production and
Absolutely.
The factories and everything
Yes.
like this.
Yes, and this interplay between, I mean, you can have a push from a manufacturing side and vice versa, and you need this in order to reach this next level, I'm sure.
And you mentioned sustainability. It's obviously a very pressing issue right now, a very urgent thing that governments are facing, companies, but it's also happened to sort of integrate within fashion in the last couple of years. We've kind of seen it already in the past, successfully or unsuccessfully, more on the unsuccessful side, but more recently we're seeing fashion brands actually use it and have it be accepted and wanted. What role are you guys playing in this? Did you feel a responsibility to play into the sustainability?
Well, absolutely. I think brands in general, they have an obligation, and definitely they have a responsibility to bring also the society to the next level, and for sure the sustainable, those topics and parameters in sustainability and sustainable production, it's for sure something the brands they need to take very seriously. And just leaning back, doing nothing is absolutely not the right way forward, at least not in our opinion. So, I mean, we are also quite special still because we do own our production systems and we do not accept status quo. So we keep pushing and we definitely want to make our way of production even better going forward. Absolutely, we will never stop.
And we spoke a bit before, just in general, about the changes in the fashion industry in the last few years. But what would you say are some of the bigger fabric and technological changes, say, in the past decade or so? I'm thinking of things like Boost, Flyknit, these kinds of things.
Well, both of them, I would say, are definitely interesting. Absolutely. I think Flyknit has many aspects to it. Of course, the aesthetics, very nice and new. But I also think the way they were produced, and I mean, having stitching machines and so on, taking over from manual labor is definitely a trend which will become even bigger, I think. So automation and robotics and so on, absolutely is a theme which you need to take very seriously.
And kind of moving back more towards the technical side of the conversation. So there's a certain kind of, I want to say, fetishism associated with technical fabrics. You know, you have brands creating products with materials that most people are not going to use to that purpose, for that function. You know, here in Berlin, we have Acronym, obviously making insane, high-end, really cool kind of ninja-like clothing. But obviously, most people that buy it are not using it for that purpose. But what do people actually want from those kind of fabrics, and what makes companies keep wanting to develop those kind of fabrics?
Well, I think first of all, it inspires you. I mean, it's cool. I mean, you have something which, in an extreme case, would make sure that you will perform. I mean, you have SUVs driving in the cities, right? I mean, why would you have that? But it's just, you know, you can rest in peace that if shit hits the fan, you will be able to perform, and that textile or whatever we are talking about will take care of you. And I think, but still, I mean, it is inspiring, and it makes you think differently also, and you start questioning the way you do things or the materials you use. Could we use something else, or could we do something which could leverage these extreme properties in different ways, for instance? So I definitely think there are multiple aspects to it. But coolness, of course, is a big driver also.
And you know, you guys are working with a lot of brands outside of just Echo, of course. When you're working with a brand, or when they approach you or you approach them, what are they actually looking for in new fabrics, or what do they come to you guys for?
I mean, for sure, the look, feel, and touch and performance, those aspects are definitely still king. But as I said before, also the sustainability and circular economy and so on plays bigger and bigger roles in those requests coming in. So that's something you somehow need to embrace. The best, of course, is that you combine everything into a material, and this is, of course, a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because you can differentiate in those parameters quite a bit, actually. But still, I would say the look, feel, and touch, and the perception. I mean, if we talk leather, for instance, the perception of leather needs to be there. Leather is leather. So
you're actually aiming to have a product that feels like the real thing, but is actually far excessive of what the proper material can give you.
Exactly. I mean, either you're bringing new properties or you enhance the properties which are already present. So I think here you can play around a little bit. But I still believe that this, the CSR, corporate social responsibility, and the green revolution that is, it's already here. It's definitely something you have to blend in somehow.
And have you guys ever actually developed fabrics that you thought were brilliant, that were going to change things, and that you guys personally loved, but then you tried to bring it to market and you found that actually there wasn't much purpose for it? Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, we try at least to fail quick if we go into that discussion. But I still believe that even though you have some materials, some products, or fabrics which eventually would fail in a commercial aspect, I still believe that the technologies which are somehow fundamental to this product or material can still be used in other areas. I mean, we usually see it as sending a rocket or launching a rocket to the moon. That rocket might never reach the moon, but the technologies which were needed for that rocket to be built can definitely be spun over into other materials or aspects or concepts or whatever, and leveraged in those scenarios instead. So it's not a waste of time. You definitely need to go for it still.
And because you guys are always working on such, a large scale, long timelines, a lot of people involved, how do you actually decide which projects to take on, which avenues are worth exploring, which new fabrics, new chemicals? Are you also looking at market trends, what people are actually buying? Are you looking, kind of trying to predict in the future what people will be into?
I will not say that we try to predict the future. I think actually we try to react on what we see and what we observe. I don't necessarily believe in this. I mean, you look into the magic bowl and then you come up with something smart. I think it's actually in the dialogue between different experts of, let's say, expertise, that you come up with something which is interesting. So I definitely believe in different kinds of collaborations and so on, and we definitely also try to somehow install these situations where different people come together and think collectively, and then something comes out of this. So that's the way we deal with it, at least.
Okay, and as a consumer yourself, when you're out in the world shopping, looking at new products, what are you actually looking for?
Materials.
On the other side of the
Yes,
materials, yeah.
absolutely. I mean, the quality of the materials is for sure the thing I definitely go for. I hate to see that. I mean, for instance, a leather goods, a bag or whatever, shoes or you name it, is being produced with lousy leathers, yet priced at a very high level just because of a brand. I think this is really bad. I mean, for me, the materials speak to me, and I would like to see the right quality, of course also to the right price, and that's okay, but for sure, the materials. Yeah.
And so you mentioned basically brands using not the best materials, but charging a really high price point for it because of the brand name itself, essentially because of marketing. But what can consumers do to educate themselves towards this, to know that they're actually buying a product that is worth the price tag?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, of course, as you mentioned, education and start to understand the basics of fabrics and materials, of course, but not everybody can do that and don't have time. So I think it definitely also sits with the brands, so that that they somehow shoulder the responsibility they should take on. And of course, the transparency and be honest is absolutely worthwhile.
Great.
Should be.
All right, well, thanks a lot, guys. Hope you enjoyed the talk. If you want to see more, we, of course, can provide also the link for the original article that led to this talk, as well as, of course, for Thomas's website, so you guys can check out some of the fabrics that he was mentioning. Thanks a lot, guys.